Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another MMATakeover.com interview. My name is Keith Schillen. Today's guest has been a professional MMA fighter for nearly 10 years. He's a veteran of both Strikeforce, Bellator, and now the UFC. He has a record of 15-6 and is 1-1 in the UFC. He returns to action on April 15th at UFC on Fox 24 when he takes on Zak Cummings. Ladies and gentlemen, Nathan Coy. Nate, how you doing, man?
Yo, I'm doing well. About a week out, I'm ready to go.
All right, that's good to hear. I mean, we appreciate. I know this as it gets closer to the fights, it gets a lot busy for your fighters. We appreciate you taking time out, speaking with us, let us know a little bit about you. So the first question we always like to ask everybody is, how'd you get into mixed martial arts?
I got into mixed martial arts. I guess it was when I was a youngster. I got into wrestling first. After wrestling, I was doing construction with my father, and at the time I was in Portland, Oregon, and we just sat down one day and working hard, and I think my dad just saw that I had potential to continue doing something more than just construction. You know, and he talked about there being a team quest there, and MMA is a pretty popular sport, and he thought that it could get bigger, and he thought that I had something to offer in the sport, and he thought, hey, why don't you give this MMA a chance? You trained with Lindland, you trained with Sodom before, why don't you go over and check this club out? And it kind of inspired me to go in there and see what the sport was about, and that's really how I got started in this whole thing.
All right. Now you wrestled at Oregon State. You're an All-American. How did you, being from out west, how did you hook up with American Top Team in Coconut Creek?
About 6 years ago, I was actually in the process of moving down to Las Vegas. I got a call from Mike Dolce, who said that Thiago Alves was looking for a training partner. He was fighting a Rick Story.
Yeah,
and I
wrestler.
experienced fighting Rick Story on the Southpaw, and they worked out a connection where I'd come down and train with him, get him ready. And once I came down there, I realized how great this team was, and it was everything I was looking for as far as like getting me to the next level. And I decided when I came back to Oregon before moving to Vegas that I would just instead move to Florida, and my family and I made the trip, and we've been here calling Florida home for the last 6 years.
Yeah. So let's talk about your nickname. They call you Soulforce. How'd you get that nickname?
How did I get that nickname, Soulforce? I don't know. When I was younger, I read some, I was in the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, and liked, he has a philosophy that he goes by, Satyagraha. It's basically, if you put it together, it's Soulforce. Just the principles of living your life according to your principles. Nothing compromises your principles. You stand by something and you go for it. And I was intrigued. It was before, like, I didn't realize it wasn't cool to give yourself a nickname, but I think it's kind of dumb to have somebody else give you a nickname. And I always wanted to be in a rock band, and I thought that'd be a great name for a band. So instead of that band, I used it for my MMA nickname.
All right. Do you play an instrument or anything?
No, I just thought it would just be a rock band.
Just one day, if you became a rock star, that would be the name of the band.
That'd been it.
All right.
That would have been it, yep.
All right. So obviously, when you look at your record, the thing that really jumps out at me is that you spent nearly 8 years before you got that call to the UFC. Just tell us how that was. I mean, did you ever start thinking that call wasn't going to come?
Yeah, man. I mean, the stories to tell you how the process of getting into the UFC, and I mean, I'm in my late 30s, so yeah, there's a few times where it was a long journey, man. Like, there was a lot of times where you're not making any money in the regional circuit. I have a family to take care of.
Yeah.
And I go on and on about the difficulty and the mindset you have when you're a fighter and you're trying to get in the UFC, and the doors seem not to be opening. But actually, right before I got into the UFC, I was down cornering my teammate Steve Montgomery down in Australia for that Rousey versus home fight
Yeah.
in Australia, and I got like Dana White does a Q&A, with the fans, and I stood in line, and I just got off the Tuck 21, and I didn't get that call.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? Why don't I just ask him what's up? So I went in there and asked,
Okay.
hey, what's up, man? Like, how come I didn't get that call? I'm ready to fight anywhere, anytime. I fought good opponents, And at that time, Thiago was going to fight. I think it was Kim, and that fight got scratched. And I thought, just put me in for Kim. And it was like 10-day notice, and they didn't. They went with somebody else. And I thought for sure that my time was done, and I was actually coming home preparing to move on. I was going to retire. That was about a year ago, and sure enough, Dan Lambert, American Top Team, told me that he'd get me in, and he did. He gave me a call like a week after or so, and I didn't get that Kim. I ended up fighting Danny Roberts.
Yeah.
Short notice fight, and but I'll tell you, there's a lot going on in your head when you're trying to get in, and then it's not happening. I'll tell you stories and stories of it.
All right, so let's talk about season 21 of The Ultimate Fighter. You were part of that. I would say kind of like a weirder season. It was the American Top Team versus Blackzillians beef season. You obviously represented American Top Team. Tell us. I got my two questions. Is how much did you enjoy the house, and then the flip side is there really that much animosity between the two teams, between Blackzillians and American Top Team, or is that just kind of thing they push for TV?
Okay, well, to answer your first question, I loved being in the house. At this point in time, I wasn't making any money, and I was training. And, you commute to the gym, and you have to buy your food, and they do everything for you. They take care of you. They drive you to the gym. They stock the fridge with whatever food you want. We're living in a $17 million mansion. It was an unbelievable experience. To answer your second question, yeah, there was animosity between the two gyms because we're living so close to each other.
Yeah.
And ultimately, in competition, you want to be the best. And so far, two teams, we want to prove that we're the best team in Florida, but not only Florida, but the world. Here we are 10 miles apart. And, you either go to Blackzillians or you go to American Top Team if you come down to Florida. And so, you hold on to a little bit of a grudge there. But I think it's been great for, now they don't exist for the most part.
Yeah, they're a combat club now.
Yeah, it's a tough gig, this thing, the strong survive.
Now, is there animosity if a fighter leaves one camp and goes to the other? For example, like Robbie Lawler, he was with American Top Team for a long time. Obviously had like a career resurrection with you guys, and now it seems like he's going over and he's training with Combat Club, which used to be the Blackzillians for the most part. Is there animosity there?
I don't consider them the Blackzillians, but no, because Robbie was our first UFC belt holder. He's a great individual. He's a great training partner.
Yeah.
And he's really a fighter's fighter, so no, he's an exception. I have no ill will for anybody who thinks they need to go somewhere to further their training. Animosity is more competition than anything, but Robbie's an exception. He's a hell of a guy, so he had his reasoning, and we'll just leave it at that, right?
All right, so let's talk about your last fight. You fought against Genevieve Webb. It was your first official win in the UFC. I know you got wins in the house, but it was your first official win in the UFC. How was that feeling, just getting that win?
Yeah, the feeling was awesome. To get my first win in the UFC, beating Genevieve Webb was awesome. Unfortunately, I tore my ACL in the fight, and so I was out, a whole year. And right when I felt like I could finally make a run and finally have my opportunity, and I had another setback, but that's just life. How do you deal with adversity? And I've dealt with it very well through my career, and just another day in the office, really.
So Brian Stan.
Great feeling, though. I'll tell you what, that win was a good feeling.
Yeah, Brian Stan actually referred to that. Said it looked like you were favoring a knee. So props for him for being able to see that. I mean, that's why
absolutely. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I call him the best in the business. So that was just another proving point.
I think him and Anik are really, and they were both, commentating that fight. I was pretty lucky to have both those guys. But I've trained with Stan. I've spent some time with him, and so to have that, he has the more details than most. And
yeah, but he actually referred to that.
Yeah,
he referred to that in the fight. He said that you actually switch your stances and you actually have your power hand forwards. And he said that he got surprised a lot of times when you spar him that you would hurt him. So let's focus on your next fight. How's camp going for this fight?
I'd say it went perfect. My camp for this fight is going really well. I've been in this camp for about a year now, and since I tore my ACL, I didn't really take any time off. I'm training for this moment. I've been training for this moment my whole life, really. Perfect. I have the best training partners. I truly believe, we got this Easy Money crew over at American Top Team. I train with Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington.
Yeah, okay.
Really just a host of other people that are just as legit, and I got them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you train with these guys, all fights are easy fucking money.
Yeah, I mean, you name dropped a little there. Obviously, Jorge Masvidal is in a very big matchup coming up against Damian Maia. Colby Covington is trying to get a fight. He's out on the corners begging for fights, and no one wants to step up and fight him.
Yeah, they should. He's very tough.
Yeah, no, he's good. I mean, that's probably why no one's stepping up. So, you've been out for 16 months. Is there any worry about ring rust?
No, because like I said, I train with the best, and it's not like I've been sparring. I've been training hard. And not to mention I've just done this for so long. I've competed since 1986. That's something I'm kind of proud of. I mean, I've heard of ring rust, but still got to step in the cage and fight. So regardless, there's no excuses, man. In my life, you go for it.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about your actual opponent. You're going against Zak Cummings. He's been in the UFC a while. He's been on a nice little run. So kind of two-part question. What in his game do you see that you have to be aware of? And then on the flip side, without giving away your game plan, what areas do you think you can exploit?
I think Zak Cummings, as a competitor, he's seasoned, he's gritty, he's tough. He has a 5-2 record in the UFC, so his 2 losses are, to 2 top 15 opponents. So, I mean, he's good. He's actually a perfect opponent for this point in my career.
Okay.
This was a nice call, nice step up the UFC gave me. I couldn't ask for a better opponent just because of the name value and, as far as the strategy in the fight, I think it's just like any fight. I go in there and I give it my all. I'm consider myself a pressure fighter.
Yeah.
And I just have to be first and be last.
Okay.
And just put a pace on them,
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because when I analyze both your games, you both are both pressure fighters. He likes coming forward. You showed in your website that you like coming forward. So that's definitely going to be an interesting matchup to see who's able to implement that part of their game. So my question is: say you beat Cummings, what would that win do for your career? What would you say a win like that does for your career?
Well, I think it should jump me up, as far as the competition where I stand within the UFC. I take over his spot, right? So he's 5-2.
Yeah.
He has 2 losses over top 15. I have 2 wins over top 15.
Yeah.
I consider my win over Rick Story as a win, right? In the top 15. I consider my win over Tyron Woodley, even though it was a split decision loss. I lost. I won 11 out of the 15 minutes in that fight.
Yeah.
I consider myself the winner in that fight. So
yeah. Stephen Thompson is in a similar
top 15.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Stephen Thompson is in a very similar situation where he won most of the fight and didn't get the decision. But yeah, you're talking about you've been that close to beating who is the current champion in your weight class. We're 10 days away to your fight, so officially 9 days until your weightings. We're filming this. It's April 5th. It's just past 11 a.m. on the East Coast. If you don't mind me asking, this fight's at 170. What you walking around right now?
I walk around, before or after practice. Those are two different.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a low 80s lifestyle fighter. That's my walking around weight forever because, I train every day. So I don't really get big. Like a year ago, I was a month out of surgery, and I probably weighed the same as I do today.
Really?
You know what I'm saying? So
wow. Okay.
I was blessed with a great metabolism, so I'm thankful for the good genetics my parents blessed me with.
Okay. So, you're 38 years old. You're going to turn 39 sometime this summer. So my question is, how much longer would you like to fight? Like, what's the, you say 2 years, 5 years, what's the game plan? And then my second part of the question is, okay, go.
The way I train is I train hard every day.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of a toll I'll take on my body. I try to really maintain my strength and by rest and I feel like I put as much training, I put as much time into rehabilitating. I'm not speaking very well, but I take care of myself as hard as I train. So I feel like I have some time left in the sport, but I don't want to do it forever. I'd like to move on and do other things,
okay.
But a goal would be to put a little money in the bank and pay off a house. Maybe I'd like to go that long.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. After you decide to retire, do you want to coach? Do you want to open up your own gym? Would you like to get into media? Like, what's the plan?
I don't really think that far ahead, simply because I'm in this moment.
Okay.
I try to live in the present. And I don't think it's very healthy. I'll be all right. Whatever I choose to do after this, I'll figure it out. I've been in a harder situation.
Yeah. So let's talk about your team. You're part of American Top Team. Obviously, you guys always have fighters going. I mean, every week in the UFC, Bellator, World Series fight, all the top organizations, you always got someone going. So let's do some predictions. Let's predict some of your teammates' fights. Now, obviously, I know you got to take all your teammates to win. But let's hear what what round method. What do you think? So we got a couple American Top Team fighters fighting this weekend at UFC 210. How about let's start with Charles Rosa, Shane Burgos. We just interviewed Shane Burgos, so obviously I'm a little biased towards Shane Burgos, and obviously you're going to be biased towards Charles Rosa. What's your prediction for that fight?
Rosa submission, third round.
Okay, all right, third round submission for Charles Rosa. Let's move on to Will Brooks, another one of your teammates. He's fighting Charles Oliveira, and really big matchup. Who you got in that one?
Will Brooks. Decision victory.
Okay. All right. Another big matchup is Thiago Alves, is a guy that you've already mentioned a couple of times in this interview. He's going against Patrick Cote. Two guys have been around a long time. Both guys have fought for a title. What do you got in that one?
I have Alves, third round TKO.
Okay, third round TKO. All right, so let's go to on your card, the card that you're fighting on. Another one of your teammates fighting Rashid Magomedov. He's going against Bobby Green. How you got that fight going?
I have Rashid winning decision.
Okay, all right, and the last prediction, you and Zak Cummings. What's your official prediction for your fight?
Third round TKO.
Third round TKO. All right, and obviously you're picking yourself by third round TKO. So. If you're out there and you like to gamble, you heard it from Nate, make sure you parlay all 5 of the American Top Team guys, and you'll have a huge payday at the end of next weekend. So my very last question for you, Nate, we appreciate you coming on here. We appreciate speaking with us, letting us get to know a little about you. My last question to you is, have you submitted to the takeover?
My name is Nathan Coy, and I have submitted to the takeover.
Nathan, we wish you luck next weekend in your fight against Zak Cummings. We wish you luck in all your fights after that, and we welcome you to the MMA Takeover family.
Take care, Keith. Thanks for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our interview with UFC fighter Nate Coy. Make sure you check out his fight next weekend, April 15th, UFC on Fox 24 when he takes on Zak Cummings. You can also check out all your news and MMA coverage over at our website, themmmatakeover.com. That's THE MMAtakeover.com. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Thanks for listening.